What's going on, everybody? This is Jordan Lazowski from Sox On 35th. Hope you're all having a great week. With this lockout going on and trying to figure out what's the best content to bring to all of you fans, we've pivoted a lot towards interviews. And we've had a lot of cool player interviews recently with Mike Rodolfo, Norge Vera, Lane Ramsey, and now shifted towards a really cool conversation with White Sox pitching coach Ethan Katz. Now, Katz took some time out to talk about his playing career and kind of why that ended a little bit earlier than he had hoped, as well as what led him to become a pitching coach, as well as some of his pitching philosophies. Really cool interview, really cool insights. So, without further ado, White Sox pitching coach Ethan Katz. So I guess, Ethan, just to start out, could you tell the readers a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, how you originally got into the game, and then when you decided you wanted to make a career out of baseball?
I grew up in Los Angeles. Basketball, baseball were like my true love as a kid. I kind of fell in love whenever I could start playing those sports. It was a really young age. And it just became a hobby. And I kind of realized with baseball, I had to give up basketball if I wanted to play high school varsity baseball as a ninth grader. So I gave up my other love and just focused on the baseball, realizing it was something I was good at. I took it serious. I wanted to be really good, but it didn't really take off for me. I had to go away to college to kind of really like find my own zone with it and kind of really develop as a player and challenge myself. And then when I went to Sacramento State, that's kind of when I really, not say took off, but that's when I really developed into everything that I wanted to be as a player. So I kind of realized in high school when I started to realize I had a chance to be something in baseball.
That makes sense. Were you always pitcher, or is that kind of just it evolved as you kind of grew up and decided to make that decision as well?
Yeah, I mean, I played first and third as well. And then I got drafted at a high school as a pitcher. So back then they had the draft and follow process. So I went and just focused on the pitching at the time. I went to junior college and didn't sign a contract then. But I stopped playing first and third to focus on primarily the pitching.
And kind of jumping into the next one, you were drafted by both the Mariners and the Rockies and spent a few seasons both in the Rockies organization as well as independent baseball after that. So what were those experiences like for you, just as a player, what you were able to learn from it? And kind of what do you feel prevented you from kind of making that next step, making it to the big leagues, kind of as you've seen players now grow up and become big league ball players, and kind of throughout that journey, when did you decide that coaching might be a great next step for you?
Well, getting drafted out of high school, them not offering me a contract was a blessing in disguise. Knowing what I know now, like I would have probably not got out of rookie ball. So that was good. Gave me a chance to develop. But then getting drafted out of Sacramento State, playing for the Rockies for 4 years, like really helped it mold me into, the coach that I am today. And what I mean by that is I was a 26 rounder. They basically, being in the role, like I get it. Like they had, as a coach in the minor leagues, you got to make sure your prospects developed. So there wasn't much attention, but what I took away from that was I would always treat every player the same. And everyone would get the same respect and same attention because I didn't want them to feel the way I did. That's kind of been my motto for every level that I've coached at. And, I went and played independent ball. Well, backtrack. I blew my arm out. I had to have Tommy John surgery. The same day I got called up to high A. So they told me before the game, congratulations, you're going to high A, but you haven't pitched in 2 to 3 days. We don't know when we're going to get you in your next game. You got to throw an inning today. You're playing flights tomorrow at 6 a.m. Congrats. Great. Try to pitch my inning. I get 2 outs and then my arm gives out on me and walk off the field. And that was it. They rehabbed me, came back for a short stint and then went to spring training the following year and they released me. So I went, I wanted to be a big league player. So I went and played independent ball. That was still my dream. And, when you're in it as a player, I mean, you're all in. If not, you're kind of wasting your time. So I always thought I had a chance no matter where I was playing. And I went to independent ball, got humbled. There were some older guys and didn't have the best year, but I wanted to play again. And I thought that playing one more year, I was getting older, but I wanted to give it I put a lot of work in to get to where I was. So I wanted to give it another shot. And I was working out with Randy Wolf, a former big league pitcher, lefty, at Harvard Westlake. And then I started talking to some of the guys because one of my friends was one of the coaches there. And then he's like, hey, why don't you just kind of help out? So I helped out. And then from there, it was time. I was still helping out coaching while preparing to be a player in independent ball. And they asked me, hey, would you mind being the varsity pitching coach? And I was like, well, I'm still playing. You guys know that. You see me work out every day. And then I just had to I kind of had to make a decision. And I just said, you know what? I think I liked what I'm doing coaching. I'm just going to step away from fulfilling my dream as a player and do something else that I kind of fell into my lap that I liked and I was enjoying at the time. So that's kind of how I got into coaching, kind of by accident, not really planning. I was planning to be a player, but fell into coaching.
Yeah. And as you started out at Harvard Westlake, you went on coach for both the Angels and Mariners, and then found your way to the big leagues with the Giants and now with the White Sox. As you've gone through each of these experiences and gone from a high school varsity pitching coach all the way to a major league pitching coach, how have each of these different experiences prepared you along the way to be ready for the position you were in last year for the first time with the White Sox?
Well, I mean, I've been fortunate. I've done every single coaching job there is from the start of high school, except AAA. So I coached in high school. I did college summer league, so I coached college kids. I did every level in pro ball except I didn't do the Dominican. So I did rookie ball. I did low A. I did high A. I did double A for a couple of years. And then I coordinated both positions. And then I was assistant in the big league. So, I mean, I've done every single step of the way. So I really got to see what each level entails and how do players need to develop at all these levels to be able to get to the next step. Or if their time might have run out, being able to evaluate that as well. So it's kind of helped mold me. Coaching players is coaching players. You have to connect with them. So it doesn't matter if I'm coaching a little leaguer. And I've done a bunch of lessons in my coaching career to make ends meet. And if I'm coaching an 8-year-old, I still have to connect with him to be able to do what he needs to do. So whether he's 8 or whether he's 30, if they need to make adjustments, they need to develop. You got to connect with them, number one. And, it just helps. All those steps have helped me with that process, with the connection, with dealing with all walks of life and different personalities in different countries and different states and how they take in information, how they don't take information, and be that filter for them to get the best out of them.
Kind of along those lines, you've kind of built up, you said you've coached at every single level as you've gone on. Have you seen, as very general question, maybe doesn't have an answer, but have you seen, where do you feel is maybe the hardest jump or most important jump to make between levels? Or does each one just kind of have its own challenges that everyone ends up difficult in its own right instead?
Yeah. The highest for me that I saw was high at a double A. That's when the strike zone appears smaller to the hitters, for the hitters. And the hitters become a little bit more disciplined. I remember vividly, we played Fernando Tatis and we played him the first series. He just went from high A to double A, and everyone knew he was good and everyone was excited to face him. And he was terrible. I don't say terrible. He was very good. I think he went that series. He might've had 1 or 2 hits. He looked horrible. He was chasing pitches out of the zone. And I remember our pitchers thinking like he's, probably overrated. And I was like, okay, well, let's give him a shot. But I said, let's just wait and see, because in the Texas League, you play the South the one time in the beginning, and then you don't play until after like the All-Star break. There's a big gap. And I was just like, let's just wait and see how he progresses. And then as time went on, the next time we saw him, completely different player, wasn't chasing pitches completely out of the zone like he was. And he was displaying what everybody talked about. So it was like our pitchers really got a life lesson of how like guys evolve and how well that guys can get. And it for me, that was just one example of just watching guys not getting the chases that they normally got from a pitching standpoint, and the guys' stuff kind of just running out. This is where their careers couldn't go past it, not from the lack of execution. They couldn't fool guys. They couldn't throw stuff by guys anymore. It just kind of slowed down. But if you were able to survive Double-A, there was a good chance you had a chance to get to the big leagues, if you were talented enough. If not, it just kind of ran out.
Mm-hmm. That's a really cool story on Tatis.
Yeah, it was interesting. I mean, obviously I've got to see him now, from there, and then 2 years ago in the big leagues, and seeing where he's at. He's made tremendous strides as a hitter.
To talk a little bit more about you personally as a coach, do you have a certain philosophy that you follow, or certain that you've kind of created as you've learned more as a coach, that kind of informs how you work as a pitching coach? And then from there, how do you go about building your ideal pitching staff and pitching department as a whole, from the analyst all the way up to the players? And are there any, as you kind of build that philosophy in that department, are there drills, tools, data, routines that are kind of crucial to the work you like to do and you like the department as a whole to kind of work on?
I mean, there's definitely stuff like I've been, being with a bunch of different organizations, you learn different things and stuff that this organization values, what this organization values. So kind of, for me, kind of molds my process, to what stuff that we've had to talk about, stuff that I've, what I have liked, what I haven't liked. I won't get too deep into that, but I mean, for like the pitching philosophy for me is like it depends. I mean, the biggest thing for me is like getting guys to know their strengths. What are your strengths and what do you do well? And some guys don't know that. So helping them identify that. And then let's continue to do that over and over again. When it comes to the drills, when it comes to fine tuning, that it's also individualized, based on what they are doing, what they might need some help with, and then what kind of information are they looking to take in, or what they're not, what might be too much, and being that filter. So it was really important getting this job, was making sure some of the stuff that I have done that I liked, we were able to build and get into place, so I can be able to have certain scouting stuff the certain way, the way that my eyes look at things and how I look at players, so we can make sure the players can simplify this and get them to understand the information. So all that stuff kind of has been over time kind of molded into what that is. But the general philosophy, I think that's really important to survive in the big leagues. You got to have stuff, but you also have to have some sort of secondary pitch. And what we do with those secondary stuff is really important. So that's a little bit of it. I don't want to say too much based on, I don't want people to know too much.
For sure. No, that makes total sense. And kind of along those lines, I'm kind of curious too, you've talked about, your experiences throughout the way being so important, and, learning from different organizations, learning what you like, what you don't like. I guess kind of along those lines, when did you kind of feel like, or maybe it was when you took the job, that, hey, I'm ready to be a major league pitching coach?
Well, I mean, I think anything you do is not, how should I put it? Anything you do, anything new, there's always that in line, like, okay, are you ready to do this or not? Like if I'm a mailman, like, am I ready to be a mailman? Like, am I ready to get all these addresses right and drop off all the mail? You don't know until you do it. I think that the best compliment, that like stuck with me when I was with the Giants. Gabe Kapler said to me, "He's like, you're really calm in the dugout." Like after the season, like he was blown away. But for me, it really it's I don't know, like it doesn't matter my surroundings. I've done it so many times in the minor leagues that it's like it's coaching. Whether if you're getting distracted what's going on, you're not prepared what's going on in front of you. And there's a lot of things that are thrown your way throughout a game. So it's it's definitely something I thought I was always ready for, but until you actually do it and go through it, I mean, obviously you don't know. You just think you are, and I feel like I was well prepared with all the steps that I've had to take to get to that point. And obviously, having that year with San Francisco, being in the dugout, um, was a great position for me to also see what it's like to interact with players during a course of a big league game and preparation and all that. So, that was a big experience for me that helped me for this past year.
And in talking about, having that experience with the players, and you also mentioned as well, just understanding players and understanding how they like to take in information. And obviously, as the game has evolved, data, new information, new techniques have increasingly become important and becoming part of the game as you've gone on. How do you personally like to incorporate for your own knowledge? Learning, is it something where it's all very hands-on for you, or is it something, hey, I like to do personal research, for example? And in that same kind of sense, how have you found success in balancing those player personalities in terms of some are more data driven than others? How have you found that balance sort of working out?
I'm very hungry for all information. That's one thing that you know probably has helped me along the way. I'm very open minded, so if there's something that I think is important, I definitely will take that in. If there's something that I'm not, I haven't heard of, I want to learn more. I want to be able to try to keep up with everything that's going on. And when it comes to that information, because you don't know, you might have a pitcher that just got called up. You have no idea what he might be thinking, what he might know, so you got to get to know the person and the player and basically understand, okay, he can handle this information. He can't handle this information. This might be too much. I'm going to save this for the right time. Or if he has a question, dumb it down for him if he needs it. So it really depends how the player can take the information. For myself, I'm trying to learn as much to stay at where everyone should be at this level. And how I take that in is different than another pitching coach. I want to make sure that I understand it. And if I don't, I'm not afraid to go ask our our analytic department, hey, what is this? Help me out with this. I'm confused by this, or I need to get this information. Help me find this information for this player. He's asking about this. Let's go through this and find it, and then take me through it so I can get it and remember it, so I can do it on my own next time. So, I mean, it just depends, but I'm constantly trying to seek out information. A lot of stuff that you do learn, it comes just from conversation, that two minds are together, and it's like, oh wow, I didn't think of that, or and it sparks general thoughts. And I did that the other day with one of our analysts. We met and had coffee, and we just were talking, going back and forth on a certain player, and we came up with some really good stuff that we hadn't thought about, but just going through that, and it just helps create new avenues of learning for everybody.
So in 2021, you got to coach in the playoffs for the first time at the major league level. And though the team didn't achieve its ultimate goal, were there things that both you and the team learned from the struggles that you think will benefit everyone moving forward into 2022 and beyond?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely it was a very humbling experience, but there's definitely we didn't achieve the ultimate goal, which was to keep playing and moving on from that series. But I think we learned a lot about what we need to do better overall as a staff. I won't speak for other departments, but what we need to do a little bit better. We are going to continue to strive in spring training and make that a priority of being able to conquer some of these things and take it. I mean, we had some young players that got a chance to pitch in a big situation that know they can do better and want to do better and want to prove their abilities to everybody. So it's a good stepping stone. It wasn't what we wanted, but it's also is going to help us down the road for what we need to take care of.
Just a couple more questions about, you and how you kind of operate, and kind of more about just also you growing up as well. With any team, there's going to be any combination of veterans who are like, I came here, I'm here to win now. And then younger players who are still very raw talents that are still developing and need that time at the major league level. So as you've kind of navigated as a pitching coach, as an assistant coach, and throughout your career, how do you balance those ideas of both winning and player development at the same time?
I mean, one of the things that we, when I was with San Francisco, we really pride ourselves is like, this is going to be development at the major league level. And I was like, that's great. That's always what I believed in, because it's been development at the low A level. It's been development at the high A level. It's development at, double A level. It's everywhere I've been. It's been all about development. Development doesn't stop. Development doesn't stop for a coach, no matter where you're coaching. Development doesn't stop for a player, no matter what they've done or because something in this game they're going to throw you a curveball. And something's going to be humbling and you're going to have to learn from it. And it's going to, there's development that needs to happen. So development doesn't stop. That's always kind of been and the minute you stop coaching and say, oh, this guy's got it figured out, it doesn't work that way. So you have to continue to develop the players at all levels. The attention to detail doesn't stop from the lowest to the highest. It continues on. So development at the big league level is something that it will always be happening for us nonstop.
And kind of the last question here, I don't know if you would consider yourself incredibly successful in what you've done, but you have seen yourself rise, like you said, all the way from a high school varsity pitching coach to a major league pitching coach. I think as you look through just your path to getting where you are, is there anyone you recall as being super influential in helping you get to that point, whether it's family, friends, coaches, people you feel have played a role in getting you to where you are today?
It's probably my family. Like I mentioned, some of the experiences I had as a 26 rounder in pro ball helped me today as a coach. But every step of the way, my mom was ultra supportive. When I remember when I was a player and I had to go pitch an inning and it was 3 hours away every Saturday just to get seen by scouts, like she was there to take me. And when he got in the pro ball and I was a player, she was there to support me when my paychecks were $80 every 2 weeks. And it's like, you need that support. And she never said like, hey, I'm going to go do this and be like, this is crazy. Like, you need to stop. Like, your dream is dying. She's always was supportive. Like, what can I do to help you? And the same goes for my wife. My wife is, I've been with my wife since high school. So she's seen my pro career from a player to a coach. And she's seen every step of the way that what I've gone through to kind of get here. And there's been tons of sacrifices on her end when we're gone for so long, or I'm in the midst of the season and I'm grinding away, trying to focus on preparing. And she knows I'm gonna get home late and I might leave early. And she's always been there to, pick up the slack behind that I might be leaving behind, and making sure that like I'm able to focus on my job and do all that kind of thing. So without that support staff, throughout my life, I don't know if I could say I would be able to get to where I've been able to get. So it's been a blessing.